In this tutorial, I want to show you how to paint out objects using Nuke's 3D projection. This particular shot was a camera that was set on a drone. So it's a camera just pulling back, but it has a tremendous amount of parallax. And all of these objects that are on the ground plane, to paint them out is extremely difficult. It's probably the most difficult shot there is. So here's the 3D view of the setup. And as you can see, there's at least 7 or 8 cameras that are needed in order to project the entire image. And the yellow camera is the actual shot cam. That's the tracked camera. And as you can see, as it travels back, it runs into each one of the other still cameras that were set up in different intervals. So I color-coded them to show you just how many images there were that had to be projected onto the geometry. And as you can see, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 7 or 8 of them. So here's a view from the shot cam, from the tracked camera. And you can see the first frame is like the peachy color, and then we get to like frame 10, and there's like a green color, and then about frame 30, there's the purple, and then probably about frame 50, 60 is the blue, and then about 80, or frame 90 is the gold, and probably about 100. I like to color code each one of the frames so that I know where the first painted frame is, where the second painted frame is, and it's just easy for me to locate. All right, so I shortened the video. I'm only going to use 90 frames of it. So I have a camera tracker here, and I brought a roto node in, and I just rotoed out the guy. So I'm not going to go through the whole steps of 3D tracking. It's a tutorial about 3D projection. But basically, I'm just doing a 3D track, and I'm going to take one of the points that are on the ground plane, and I'm just going to attach it to a card in 3D space and align it to my background view so that the card looks like it's sitting right on the ground plane. Now, I'm not going to show in Photoshop me painting out the frames. I'm assuming that you know how to paint out. So I'm just going to be bringing in the frames that are already been painted out. And then from there, I'll show the workflow and exactly how to set it all up in Nuke. So you start with frame 1, let's say. And I'm going to need to paint out frame 1. So let's just do that for now and see what that looks like. So here is frame 1. And I just took the first frame from because this is an image sequence. There's 90 frames here. So I just took the first frame, brought it into Photoshop, and just painted this grass right over it. So I have frame 1. Now let's see what happens if we just use this as a projection, and what issues we will run into when it gets projected. So let me bring in a 3D projection node. And I also, being that I'm using the first frame, while the camera is on frame 1, I need to duplicate this camera, this tracking camera. So I'm going to copy and paste it. Let's get rid of this, which is Alt-E. But this is also just a duplicate of the camera, so we're going to have of the tracking camera. We don't want any animation on it. We just want it to be a freeze frame of frame 1. So we're going to have to take the animation off on it. Yes. So now I have frame 1 that's just a still image. And we're going to use that as the camera. We're going to call this Cam 1. And now we're going to pump this into the scene. Oh, actually, not what I'm saying. We're going to pump this into the card. So let's get rid of this checkerboard. And just pipe that in. And now we have the projection right over it. And if you look at the still image, if we just stare at that still image and compare it, you'll see it's an exact duplicate. I mean, it lines up perfectly. There's the image, this the Photoshop image, and then this is it projected over. So now, if we press play, let's see what happens. Now, it sticks. It's looking good, but look what we have here. What's going on? Well, what's happening is our image is running out. As the camera starts panning back, our projected image is ending here. Now, you can argue and say, well, why don't you start from the widest frame, which in our case would be 90. And why don't you just put frame 90 on there? This way, you'll have the whole entire length. So let's try that and see what happens. Let's do that. All right, so here's frame 90 painted out. But I also need to take the camera and make a copy of that on frame 90. Paste it over here. And again, take off the animation on it. Okay. Copy this. And take that image that I just painted out. And we're going to project that over it. First, we're going to just take it off. And we'll just project it at 90. Okay. So now, here, it's all painted out. And you say, well, that's great. So now it covered the whole thing. And all you have to do is start from the beginning again. And it should work. And this is what happens at frame 1. And you go, hey, wait a minute. It looked good before. Well, that's because we had this one piped in. And at frame 1, it looks great because we painted on frame 1. And as it travels, it still looks good, but we're losing the amount of projection because that's where the image, the amount of information only ends there. So it goes traveling away, and we just see all this empty space. I want to be able to see both of these. Because right now I have this one projected and I have the last frame projected. I know I have extra here. I'll deal with this after. But I want to put both of them together so I could see my last projection and my first projection. So how do we do that? Well, let's take the... Now let me name this too so it doesn't get too crazy. So this would be cam 90. Okay, so first frame should go first, and the last frame should go second. So, in order to put both of these on this image plane, we're going to need to use a matte merge, or a merge matte. I don't know if I can find it. Merge matte. So, it works the same way where A over B, it will make a difference on which way you pipe this in. Okay, so now both of them are on there. Now again, it's hard to see what's going on, so that's why I like to use a grade node on both of them and color code them. So we can see just where one ends and where the other one doesn't. So okay, so there's our one texture. Okay, and here's our other that we're projecting. This at least demonstrates where the two textures are at any given time. So we see the first frame, and then it goes away, and the other one kicks in. But now here's where it's interesting. This is where the first frame and the last frame are connected. And as you can see, let me just shut this off. As you can see, they look horrible. The two don't look anything alike. Like you could believe that these two were seamed together. And that's because it's just the texture is just tearing to shit because it's just too close. It was it was projected at frame 90, and now you're zooming in to like this through the projection. So of course, the closer you get, the worse it's going to look. So you have limits on both textures, meaning at frame 1, it looks pretty good, and it handles it better because as you go farther away, it really doesn't look too bad, even at a distance. So you're better off projecting up close and then adding your projections as you travel farther away. Then to take the last frame, even though you think, well, I got the whole projection, as you get closer and closer, it just tears and it just looks horrible. So what we have to do is work from frame 1 and work our way back. So you don't have to project every single frame, but you have to feel out to see how far you can go. Let's see if we can get away with 10. So I'm at frame 10. I want to, again, copy the shot camera, paste it, and again, remove the animation. Remove the animation. And same thing. Copy the projection node. Pipe that in. Oh, what am I saying? I don't need that. So I need frame 10 painted out. So here it is. And let's take a look at it. So here's frame 10, the image. So we're going to pipe that in. And also we're going to need another merge node, matte merge. And we'll get into this a little later because there is blend modes that you might have to screw around with. So we have this one's on top of this one, and now this one is going to be on top of this one. Okay, oh wait, maybe I have to switch the pipes. Let's do B over A. Okay. And again, I want to put a gray node and color code so we could see where it is and what's going on. So, but again, we have the whole entire image is being overlaid. So, if we take a mask and add that, overlays off. Let's see what happens. Now let me make this color a little bit more obvious. Okay. So now my mask, I can control just how much of the image that's being projected is to be shown. So I needed to fill to at least here. Maybe come over like this. All right. Shut the overlay, shut the image. The color. Okay, so now we have the two that are together, but there is a seam where the two join. So we're gonna have to feather this out, and you'll blend this in and it'll be seamless. But I'll do that later. So now I have this one and now this tearing that you see here, this is from another overlay. That's probably from this guy here. So if I shut him off, which is the last frame, this will get to show you exactly what's being projected. So basically, if I take the first frame, do the same thing. Actually, I could probably copy it, paste that over here. I could do the same thing. I can control now how much of the first frame I want to see, which I'm only interested in is that grass section. Okay, go. And the same thing with this frame. I still have this frame here is being shown all through here, and this is the last frame. That's at frame 90. Now we don't need to see all of this. We're only concerned about this, so we'll do the same thing. I'll take this guy, paste it in here, and basically the same thing. Let's see only what we need. And again, this is frame 90, so we just need to cover that road. Okay, let's shut off the blue and the overlay. Good. So now we have the grass going all the way across and covering, and so it starts out on frame 1. And now we're at frame 10 and we're covered up. We have frame 1 and frame 10. And again, with color, you'll see. And we should change that color too. So there's our two images. And again, same thing now. Now as we pull away, now the further you start going back, the more you could start adding, distancing yourself from the camera, meaning that we don't have to do it like the first frame, and then we went to frame 10. Now from frame 10, we could probably go to, say, frame 30. And we'll fill in frame 30 from here. So let's do the same thing. So I have frame 30 that's painted out. This is frame 30. So I painted that out. Okay. So basically the same thing. Let me just get a little organized here. So here's frame 1. Here's the problem. I have the last frame. This is where it's all screwed up. Let me show you. This is my last frame, which of course if I would have named the camera, I would have known. Yeah, I think this is the last one. This should be cam. I thought I did the cam 90. And this one should be cam 10. I'm going to put now frame 30. So here's my, nope, that's not it. Here's frame 30 that's painted out. And again, I copy this over. I'm going to need now to be on frame 30 and go to that tracking camera, copy it, paste it, delete the animation. I want that camera to be still. Pipe that in, and we have to now merge that. You know, I'm going to leave this one off because I'll be constantly taking the pipes out. So we'll add this in at the end. Okay, so I got the first frame, the second, here's the third. And how do we know that? Well, it's filled in for one, but I need a color. I need to see exactly what's going on. Aha! So, same thing. I'm going to put a photo. I should have just copied it, but overlay back on. Okay. And that'll be good for that. I don't want to change that color. I'm anal that way. Okay. Take off. Okay, so now here we are at frame 1. Camera's traveling back. We're seeing frame 10 come in. Now we're seeing frame 30 come in. And this is and now we're gonna have to just keep going. And this is the basic pattern. Let me see. Let me just shut off these colors. So up to 30, we should be good, which we are. So now you see here, this is just because I screwed up on the painting or the mask, probably the mask. Let's see. See, and that's why I like color codes, so I know which one is which. It's this guy. There you go. And again, they have to be blended in anyway, which you just do that with a feather. Let's see. And overlay. There you go. And I'm still there. Oh, I know why, because there's the other problem. The other thing you got to worry about is that your mask is putting keyframes. That's the other thing that's my pet peeve. About the blending of the edges. It's basically just feathering it. At least that's what I do. Let me just get rid of it. So I just take the feather from here and just feather the edges. Let's see what we got. Yeah, like this one. So here's the feather. See? You can just feather out the your seams look pretty horrible. You could just feather in the seam, and that'll get you where you gotta go. See? And that's basically the workflow. So now let's take a look at what we've done in 3D space. So as you can see, here's my card. And you can see that the only thing that's showing up is wherever the cameras are projecting. And that's basically the workflow.